Writing down your thoughts and your plans are very important for all of us. Now for me, I don't do regular journaling, but I always write down my thoughts and some interesting quotes from books. I don't own any fancy journal or anything in particular, it's just a regular exercise book. So I made an easy book cover for my journal to give it a nicer look. This is a fabric journal cover and it has a nice embossed heart shape at the front. Now let's see what you need to make one of your own. You will need a measuring tape or a ruler, a few pins, a pair of scissors, your journal or book to get the measurements, and we need fabric for the book cover, and I'm using the back side of this old shirt. Repurposing is the best thing you can do before buying anything new. Repurpose also means this is pre-washed and it's a cotton shirt, and I would recommend you to use a thin cotton or linen fabric if you could. Now this part is optional, but if you would like, you can add a little decoration to your journal cover. I'm using felt for that, so we'll need a small piece of felt and embroidery floss. I'm using this cookie cutter to cut a heart shape out of felt. Finally, some fiber fill to give it an embossed look. Just to make things easier, I'm going to cut the back side of this shirt separately. We are using this piece of fabric to make the journal cover. Now fold the fabric in half and give it a little press using your hands. Place your journal on top of the folded fabric to align it with the folded end like this. Take your measuring tape or ruler and mark 1 to 1¼ inches down from the journal. You can use a fabric marker for that. I'm using a pin to mark the point, and it also helps to hold the both layers together. Now from the side, mark 3 inches away from the journal. From the top side, it's again 1 to 1¼ inches away from the journal. Mark using a fabric marker or just use a pin like I do. Considering those 3 points as a guide, cut a rectangular shape along these 3 sides. This doesn't have to be precise, and you can also use a rotary cutter and a ruler to make things easier. Finally, remove the pins. Now this is the pattern for my journal cover, and you will get one depending on the journal that you use. Place the wrong side of the fabric facing up and starting from one side, fold about ½ inch towards you. Use an iron to press the fold as you move along the side. Next, fold it over and press again along the side, so the raw edges won't be visible to the outside. Use a few pins to keep the fold. Then I'm going to do the same for the side opposite to it. Fold about ½ inch and press it along the side. Then fold it over and press to keep the crease. Use a few pins so it won't unfold later. Now move to the remaining two sides and do the same as we did with the first two sides. The reason why I mentioned using thin cotton or linen fabric is to reduce the thickening around four corners with more fabric layers. Since I have a basic sewing machine, I don't want to handle thick fabric layers. With all four sides nicely folded and pinned, we can now sew along the four sides. Start to sew at any point and make sure to do a little back stitch at the beginning. Try to sew straight and closer to the folded end. Remove the pins as you go. I think if you want to start sewing, try something simple like this one. It's basically a few straight stitches and you'll get a beautiful journal cover. When you reach the corners, stop sewing and raise the foot while the needle is down. Pivot and lower the foot. You can start sewing again. People think sewing is expensive, but it is not that expensive if you repurpose things like I do. I made a picnic blanket with an old pillow cover and some fabric scraps and it turned out okay. I'll leave the link for that in case if you're interested. Repurpose also means even if you mess things up, it doesn't matter much. When you reach the end, do a little back stitch as we always do. Trim all the threads. Place your journal on the center of the wrong side of the fabric like this and fold the fabric in half. As you can see, there is extra fabric hanging and we are going to fold it inside like this. Use a pin at the top corner to keep the fold and make a fabric pocket for the journal cover. Do the same for the bottom end as well to complete the pocket. Now let's move to the back of the journal. As we did earlier, fold this extra fabric inside at both ends and use two pins to hold the fold. We are going to sew these pinned areas at the end. As we got the measurement for the two pockets, you can now remove the book from the cover. Don't make it too tight, leave a little space just to easily remove and enter the book. This next part is totally optional, but I would like to make a little heart shape on the front side of the cover. I'm using this heart-shaped cookie cutter as my pattern and you can use anything you would like. Place the shape on top of the felt piece and draw around it using a fabric marker. Then carefully cut around it. It doesn't have to be felt, you can use any fabric for that. Felt make things easier because it won't fray, and as you know, I have a whole lot of felt laying around and I want to use them as well. Now place your decoration piece where you want it to be and use a pin to hold it. Make sure it is only pinned to the front layer and won't interfere with any of the pockets. You can sew this around using your sewing machine and also these pinned areas to complete the pockets. Remove the pin and hold it in place while sewing. Start to sew one pinned area at a time, and we have 4. Sew this small part straight and do a little back stitch at the beginning and at the ending. Trim all the threads. As you can see, one end of the pocket is secured now, and let's move to the other end. Follow the same steps as we did earlier. With that done, we have one of the pockets completed. Let's move to the back side and sew the 2 ends to secure the other pocket as well. Trim all the threads. As you can see, we have a completed journal cover except the decoration part at the front. See how easy it is to make one? This can be your very first sewing project. Like I mentioned earlier, you can sew it using a sewing machine, but I'm going to hand sew it because I'm planning on stuffing it with a bit of fiber fill to give it an embossed look. For me, hand sewing is easier that way. Thread your needle and make a knot at the end. I'm using the back stitch to go around, but you can also use the whip stitch as well. You can find the tutorial for both back stitch and the whip stitch on our channel, and I'll make sure to leave the links in the description as well. It's amazing to think people used to stitch everything by hand all these years ago, and adding a bit of hand stitching, especially with gift giving, always tells you how special you are to that person. Now we have stitched almost 3/4 of the way. You can remove the pin. Next step is to stuff this felt heart with a little bit of fiber fill at a time. You can use something with a blunt end like this wooden rod to reach the corners. Continue sewing and stuffing till you think it's enough fiber fill to give an embossed look. With Valentine's Day coming up, I think this sewing project is well timed. Once you reach the starting point of the heart, end the stitch at the back of the fabric. Make a couple of knots using these threads nearby. Finally, trim the thread. This is the final look of our felt heart and also the journal cover. Now let's see how good it looks on the journal. Carefully enter the front and back hard covers of the book to these fabric pockets. I think everything looks great with this fabric journal cover, and you can't say it's just an exercise book now. Fun thing is you can easily remove this and use it for your next journal as well. Thank you for watching and I hope you all will try this project. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and I'll join you in the next one.